following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Degraw's Yankees. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and we're going to do a little hot stove league baseball. Relive some of our memories tonight with the host, the man himself, Jack Degraw. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you tonight, Ralph?
Oh, could not be better. Get to talk a little Yankee ball. Memories that really go beyond me. Henrich, we're going to talk about all reliable Tommy Henrich tonight. And he was a contemporary of Joe DiMaggio. You had the pleasure of interacting with him. And I want to hear the story. Jack Degraw.
Well, Ralph, I met Tommy Henrich at the 1993 Yankee Fan Fest, and it was at the Jacob Javits Center in New York. And I read that when he was a young player, they called him Babyface. So I went up to him. I go, "How you doing, Babyface?" And he got a big kick out of that. He laughed. He said, Jumbo Brown gave him that nickname, a Yankee pitcher. And we got to chatting a little bit, and I asked him about the 1938 World Series when the Yankees played the Cubs, and it was Game 2, and Dizzy Dean started for the Cubs. And Tommy said, Dizzy had nothing that day. He was just getting this out on guts. He was throwing he was hitting these spots. And going into the 8th inning, he had a 3-2 lead. And Frank Crissetti hit a 2-run homer off him. And in the 9th, Joe DiMaggio hit a 2-run homer off him. But I just thought it was kind of cool that, 55 years later after the game, I'm talking to this, great Yankee and, teammates with Gehrig, DiMaggio, and all he accomplished throughout his career. It was just a great thrill of mine.
Wow. Nice. May I ask you how he got the name All Reliable?
Well, there was a train. He got it from Mel Allen, I believe. There was a train that ran from Ohio through Alabama, and they used to call it All Reliable. And Melvin Allen Israel was from Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe so.
So he must have gotten that from his early memories of being a kid or whatever, and All Reliable. He was clutch with the Yankees.
Yeah, he won. He was on 7 pennant winners, and I think an interesting story, Ralph, is he was the first free agent, and I'll share the story with you. He didn't play high school baseball. They didn't have a high school baseball team. But he played sandlot ball, and he got signed by the Indians in 1933. And he progressed through the system, and in 1936 he played AAA ball with the Indians in New Orleans. And he had like 100 RBIs, and he hit 346, and he thought he was going to get, a tryout to make the Indian team in 1937. But they sold his contract to the Milwaukee Brewers, which was in the American Association, and they had no affiliation with Major League Baseball. So Tommy Henrich, as he was like 22 years old, wrote to Commissioner Judge Landis, and he said, "Who owns my contract?" He says, "I believe, the Brewers don't have an affiliation with the major leagues, and the Indians aren't going to give me a shot. So, who owns my contract?" So he wrote to Judge Landis. They had a meeting. The Indians slapped Nicka, the general manager, and Henrich and the judge, and the judge granted Tommy Henrich. He was the first free agent. He said, "You can sign with any team you want," and the New York Giants were interested in him, and he signed with the Yankees somewhere between 20 and 25,000. So he was baseball's first free agent.
Wow. What a piece of trivia. That is terrific. Interesting that the Giants wanted him, and when I was a kid, being a Giant fan, Tommy Henrich was a coach for the Giants.
1957.
Right. I wonder how that came to be. I wonder why, what his experiences were from the time he retired as a player. He was never a Yankee coach. I think the hitting coach was Wally Moses for all those years.
Well, the thing is, Ralph, when Mickey Mantle come to spring training in Phoenix that year, because the Giants come to St. Pete and the Yankees went to Arizona, Tommy Henrich worked with Mickey Mantle, and taught him how to play the outfield.
Whoa, didn't know that. So he was like a spring training coach, or did he manage in the minors?
No, I think he might, he helped out the Yankees. He was like a coach for like maybe a spring training coach, like you were saying.
Okay. You mentioned Mantle. I don't know if you're a numbers freak like I am, but Henrich wore number 7 before Cliff Mapes, but he was number 7 for the Yankees, at least for a while.
Yeah, we should check that out. I believe, do you remember in the 1941 series when the Dodgers were playing the Yankees, and the Yankees were up 2-1 in Game 4, and Casey threw the wild pitch?
Well, it wasn't a wild pitch; it was a pass ball, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And then the Yankees
Henrich jumps up and hits a home run in that big inning, and I think it was his second home run of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where I got it in my head that he wore number 7. Check it out. I guess I bet I'm right on this one. If I were a betting man, I'd say Tommy Henrich, number 7. But he was indeed clutch. Give him that.
Well, an interesting thing, Ralph, is he hit the first game-winning home run in the World Series. 1949, Game 2, in the 9th inning, he hit a home run off Don Newcomb to beat the Dodgers, and that was the first game-winning home run in the World Series.
Whoa, didn't know that. And I'll bet they didn't call them walk-offs in those days.
Well, you notice I didn't call it a walk-off either.
Okay.
That's one of my pet peeves, too.
That's what do you mean walk-off? Never got it with me. But I can imagine sitting in that locker room, being a fly in that locker room after that game, 1949. It was Casey's first world championship. And we've talked about this before, certainly on this network. The first of 5 in a row. That will never be topped. And I think it is the greatest dynasty that ever was. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, from they won 5 in a row from 1949 through 64. They were in the World Series every year but twice. 54 and 59. It's just incredible when you think about it.
And it was a great pennant race in 59 between Cleveland, the White Sox, and the Yankees. That was a classic right then.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of great races. I remember I don't remember, I wasn't around, but in 1949, there was a great pennant race with the Red Sox. The Yankees had to beat the Red Sox the last 2 days of the season.
Oh, and Maggio was hurt most of the year with ankle problems, bone spurs, much like our beloved president suffered from bone spurs. Didn't stop DiMaggio, though, from going into the service and what have you, but I digress. That was a great pennant race. Two wonderful teams. Ted Williams with the Red Sox, Pesky, those guys, and the Yankees. It was terrific.
Well, I remember reading somewhere that Ted Williams said the big difference in the teams was the guy at shortstop. Ted Williams, thought a lot of Scooter Rizzuto.
I know, and I've heard you say that, or others, or read that. It surprises me too, because Ted Williams loved Pesky. He was, there was 3 or 4 of them: Bobby Dower, Pesky, Dom DiMaggio, Williams. They were teammates for a long time, and for him to speak that highly of Rizzuto really says a lot. He was the most honest guy in the world. Whatever was on his mind, he said. He had no filter. And sometimes it was refreshing, and it worked in his favor, but sometimes he could be cantankerous, could be the word. But I always wondered how Johnny Pesky must have felt when he said those words about Rizzuto. But maybe he felt the same way deep down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Red Sox had some terrific teams, and I remember, didn't they have a great shortstop, Vern Stevens? He had some incredible season. He knocked in over 150 runs one year, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. And he might have been around in 49, not Pesky. I know Pesky was around in 46 because when Enos Slaughter scored, it was Pesky that hesitated in that relay throw, which probably would have gotten there a lot sooner if Dom DiMaggio was playing. But there was a guy named Culbertson who was playing center field, and his grandson played in the majors not too long ago. May still be up. I can't think of his first name, but the grandson's father was a minor leaguer with the Giants, whom I signed to his Topps contract somewhere in the 80s. So baseball is a real weird game, and the fact that minutia goes on in my head 24 hours a day, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it's a good thing, because
it's a good thing.
That there's not much else up there, so it's benign. It doesn't hurt anybody, and it's not like I'm thinking about bad stuff. You could fill in the blanks on that, whatever bad stuff connotates in your own head. But I kind of like my baseball mind every now and again.
Well, let me share this story with you, Ralph, before I forget it. In 1938, the Yankees were playing their minor league team, the Kansas City Blues, and they also had a minor league team, the Kansas City A's, in the 50s, but that's another story. And it was down here in Florida, and Lou Gehrig didn't play that day for like the first time, since he was with the Yankees. He didn't start a game. This is even spring training. And Tommy Henrich took his place. And that was the first game that Lou didn't start first base when he, was with the Yankees.
When the streak ended?
Well, no. See, it was only an exhibition game, Ralph. So technically,
okay. When the streak, it wasn't him with. That's another good trivia question. And I didn't think of that. He did play some first base over his career. He wasn't just an outfielder.
Yeah, in 1949 he played a big role. He was at first base. So Henrich was a great player. I mean, he gets lost when you talk about all the great players they had, but he was one of those indispensable guys.
I thought that he was like the Hank Bauer of his time.
Yeah.
Even the Gene Woodling of his time. Just a solid guy who hustled all the time and fit right in that DiMaggio clubhouse. The reason I think that 49 to 53 streak was so incredible, to get back to that for a second, was that it did go from DiMaggio to Mickey Mantle, and they didn't skip a beat. And I thought that was terrific. Plus, Casey's ability to platoon and play the hunches. Wow, those were some great Yankee teams.
Well, it's incredible, Ralph, when you think like, they go from Stuffy Sternweiss to Billy Johnson to Jerry Coleman to Bobby Brown and Gil McDougall. It's just amazing how just one came after the other, and that they didn't lose a beat.
Billy Martin was in that mix, and Coleman got called up to the service, and Billy Martin basically won the second base job. And had all those terrific World Series. What an incredible overachiever was Billy Martin.
Yeah, 52, 53, he had a big catch in the series. He knocked in the winning run, I think, one year in 53. One year he hit 500 in the series. He was 12 for 24. I think before the year started, like in the local papers in New York, they used to compare, the Yankee lineup with the Dodgers, and they always gave Jackie Robinson a big edge over Billy, and I think Billy took it to heart and just stepped it up a little bit, or a lot of bit.
And if I'm not mistaken, one of the reasons he took it so personally, that he and Jackie were both represented by the same agent. He might not have been called an agent in that day, maybe called the business manager or whatever, but they had that in common. And I mean, Jackie was Jackie. He was great day in and day out. But come to the World Series, Billy outplayed him in the World Series. So
Yeah, well, Billy really stepped it up. And, I mean, the Dodgers, the thing is, the Dodgers had some incredible teams. I mean, you look at their team, I believe it was 53. They won like 108, 110 games. I mean, what an amazing ball club they had.
That was the best of all the teams they had. You're right, the 53 Dodgers. They were terrific. And by the time they won, Jackie was really getting a little long in the tooth, and they had to do a little moving around. Junior Gilliam was coming in, but the 53 team, even Reese was getting a little over the hill, if you will, by 55. You can't say it was over the hill. That was their only year that they won. But 53, they were a terrific team. They just got. Well, you mentioned Newcomb in conversation. Newcomb never seemed to have won the big games, and he got a lot of heat for that. But Newcomb got him to the World Series more often than not. Terrific.
Yeah, I know in Game 7, 1956 series, Johnny Cooks, and Johnny Cooks was, lived in the next town from me. He lived in Stanhope, New Jersey. And I'm from Netcon. And, and Newcomb, Yogi hit a grand slam off him, and, Yogi hit 2 homers, and they beat him 9-0. So,
Al Blumkin says that was what drove Newcomb to drink. that Yogi knocking him out in that World Series. And he was never the same after that. And he did have quite a drinking problem at the time. Thankfully, rehabilitated himself along those lines and became a speaker, an inspiration to a lot of Dodgers, a lot of ball players that turned it around along those lines. He had his demons at the time. Another New Jersey guy.
Well, the thing is, Newcomb's still around, Ralph. I don't know how old he is. I think he's 90-something, but you still see him at Dodger events, so he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, maybe we can get him on sometime. If not on this show, on the network. That would be interesting to get his recollections. Not many Dodgers are left, not many Giants are left, not many Yankees. I mean, we go back a long time in our memory, and I read something the other day that the only surviving member of my New York Giants, mine and Russ Hodges, but from the 51 team, the first time I ever saw them as a kid, the only surviving member of that team is Willie Mays himself.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, everybody else is gone. There are a few 54 Giants still alive. I know Joey Malfitano is one. That comes to mind off the top of my head. But of the 51 Giants, Willie is the last survivor. And, wow. That's why going back brings a tear to our eye more often than not. So with that, my friend, this was terrific. I enjoy your company. I enjoy going back into Memoryville. And next week we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up with the Yankees spring training. 50 days away, 45, I think.
Yeah, 7 weeks.
Yeah. I don't call 45 days to spring training. I think of the number. That was 45 was Tug McGraw in my head.
Okay.
So let's just think 45 days till Tug McGraw. May he rest in peace. Or Tug McGraw in 45 days. However you want to say it. That's the beauty of podcast. We have the freedom. Just being a silly old guy tonight. Thanks for making me happy, Jack. We talk ball.
Anytime, Ralph. I enjoy it. I actually love talking about this more than the modern players. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. And you guys do a great job on the network, and it's an honor to me to be a part of it.
You're not only a part of it, you're an enhancement. So can't tell you how much I appreciate your company and your talents. You got the pipes for it.
Well, thanks, Ralph. Have a happy New Year.
You too, my friend, and stay healthy. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you want to do something nice for New Year's, and if you enjoy, or even if you don't enjoy our programming, do me a solid. Box up some new or lightly used children's books and take them down to the Head Start program and get kids excited about reading, get them to develop a passion, become school ready, get their noses out of the devices and the computers, and develop their imagination a little bit. Reading is good. The kids in the Head Start program that will be reading these books need your help. They need your help or they wouldn't be in the program. That's how it works. And this is, you can call it socialism, call it whatever you want. We got to start helping each other, and we got to put the future of our country into literate people, because we've skipped a generation or two of that. And so take them down there, box them up, get a neighborhood thing together, and you'll feel good about it, and I'll get the vibe somehow. I know what you do. Thank you for listening, everybody. Be well. Thanks again, Jack. Adios. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.